All right. Well, not sure how to tell if people are watching yet, so I'm gonna wait a couple minutes. Sorry, my voice is going out a little bit. Well, looks like we got a couple people. Hail, sub brothers and sisters. Oh, if I can just get over this cold. Well, I'm just gonna start. So whoever joins, and whoever joins later can play catch up. But I just wanted to start by saying anything that I talk about today, anything that I think I see in the asatru community, or what I've observed, and everything. This is all my opinion. I don't speak for the whole asatru community. I don't even speak for my whole kindred completely. We all have our own thoughts. We all have our own beliefs. So if you have questions throughout this discussion, write them down and I'll answer them the best I can. If you want to debate about something, just let me know. I'm going to kind of kick it off about what is asatru, also known as odinism, wotanism, neo-paganism, or Norse paganism. And and I just go by asatru because to me, when you start calling them other definitions such as odinism or wotanism, to me that is dedicating your life to odinism. That's a solitary life. That's a life of solitude, of knowledge, gaining knowledge. You don't have much of a life other than book reading, rune casting, reading the runes, and so forth and stuff like that. But asatru to me, it's way different than what our ancestors believed in. There's no asatru, odinism, or any type of Norse paganism will never be what it used to be. It can't be because that time is gone. We'll never be able to believe how they believed. We'll never be able to practice the way they practiced. And that's just the way it is. So we've kind of adapted our own form of odinism or asatru. And through that, we live through the 9 noble virtues, courage, honor, truth, fidelity, discipline, hospitality, industriousness, perseverance, all of those, and self-reliance. All of those, we live by and we practice those because it is a way of life. It's like, Christians or all of them, they have their 10 commandments. That's what they live by. That's their code of honor. Well, these 9 noble virtues are our code of honor to kind of say, and by living those, we get into, we surpass those and we go into the 6-fold goals, might, wisdom, right, harvest, frith, and love. And by doing those, we're holding ourselves to a higher standard. We're picking ourselves up. We're picking our folk up. We're living the way that we should be living. We're trying to think of the word, but we're conducting ourselves in a manner that our ancestors would have, or at least as close as our ancestors that we could have. But that's just, just the virtues and the 6-fold goals. That's just a small part of what odinism is or what asatru is. Along those lines, or on some other lines, we have all of our religious ceremonies. We have bloats, which we do for all of our solstices, or we do for just for patron gods. You have Yule and Midsummer and Ostara, Winter Findings, Freyfaxi, all these bloats. We get together and we celebrate. A Gothi will go around and he'll conduct the whole service, and people will participate in it. People will have readings, or we'll raise horns together. We'll praise the gods. We'll say things that what they mean to us. Our interpretation of them. We ask them for something. We take we take oaths, or we challenge ourselves at these. We take boasts. Hail sa brother, hail sa Dale, hail sa Margaret, and pretty playful. I'm not sure who that one is, but at these bloats, it's very spiritual, and you get this energy that, personally me, I don't get anywhere else. I guess for some people, let's just say Christians again. I'm going to mention Christianity quite a bit throughout this whole thing. They go to church, and they get, their energy for it, or whatever, whether it's church, a synagogue, whatever, well, that's a bloat, man. You get everyone vibing, and you get the gods' presence there, and you call them down, and they're down there watching you, or they're up watching you, or they're joining, and you could feel that energy. That's real. It's not, it just doesn't happen. You get everyone vibing with each other, and you're calling upon them, so bloats are huge. You have to have stuff like that. And one of the things why I created this page, oh, hi, Tammy. One of the reasons why I created this YouTube, I was talking to Ron McVan last time I went up. And that's one of the things. You can go on YouTube and you could type in bloats midsummer, and it's very far and few between. No one shares that. No one shares their experiences. No one, and if you can't share it, then no one's going to know about it. Oh yeah. Sacrifices. Of course, Margaret, we always sacrifice, food, leave stuff out for the whites, the land whites. Caught myself, Dale. And dumping mead down for the gods. Sacrifice could be all sorts of things. Dale Morgan, one of the brothers of Berserkers of Midgard, sacrificed one of his horns, Stacia, or not his horns, his hammers, and that was for his son. And he sacrificed that horn to bring, that his son comes out, healthy and strong. And, sacrificing is a big thing, but kind of like how I was talking about earlier, is we can't practice like we used to, because back in the day, they used to sacrifice 9 of everything once a year. I can't remember if it was once a year. Don't quote me on that. But every so often they would sacrifice animals. I mean, even people, willing people, not just, they'd go find someone, it was devout Odinists who saw the reason why they had to do it. And so sacrificing is a big part. Thanks for bringing that out, Margaret. And along with, just believing in the gods and goddesses, there's many other aspects, there's many other beings out there that don't get a lot of recognition. The Norns are massive in our religion. They play a very detrimental role in everything that's going on. They weave our fate, our weird, and weird being as it is in our fate or our destiny. And a lot of people look at that as, oh, I don't want to believe that everything's just destined for me. I have no choice. It's not really like that. And Robert Blumetti, who I have 2 of his books, really talks about it in virology, or the secret science of the ancient Aryans. And he really talks about how with the Norns, they weave the weird, but there's all these threads. I mean, multiple threads. So you have all these choices and all these paths you could take, whether you take the good path or the wrong path, the easy way or the hard way. It all leads somewhere, and it all leads to your destiny, to your fate, to what you're going to be, what you're going to be remembered as, who you're going to be remembered as, if you're going to be honorable, dishonorable, a thief, a wise man, knowledgeable, a bard, whatever. It's all of these threads that the Norns weave. It all leads to where we need to be. And so there is that free choice. There is that you still get to choose, but it is going to lead to that destiny of who you were brought here to be. Then you got the elves, of course, and the dwarves, and then the giants. And I have a very different outlook, and I'll discuss it more in other videos of about the gods and goddesses and about the giants and all of them, but in simplistic terms, to kind of just talk about it in this, man, is the giants. the giants are really this negative force, this chaotic, destructful force that they'll wreak havoc upon everything, whether you see it in earthquakes or tsunamis or, I mean, hail. We just had a really big hailstorm, and it destroyed houses, millions of dollars. That's the giants, and the gods are there as that good energy, that force that keeps everything in balance, that stops that negative energy. The giants, whether it be a frost giant or a fire giant, that's what they're doing. And we really gotta the gods are we really gotta trying to think of how to say this, because I am going to talk about it later on. But the gods during kind of the whole Christian uprising, when Christianity was becoming big, the gods became dormant because you didn't have that belief system anymore. You didn't have that you didn't have those people following it, because I mean, you couldn't. You'd be killed. It was convert or die. And so the gods lay dormant for so long, and you could kind of see how society has been breaking down, and people have lost all that sense of morality. They've lost those holding yourself to a higher standard. That doesn't happen anymore with all the crazy things that are going on now. And now that you could clearly see, anyone can see that Christianity is fading. It's not as strong as it used to be. No one, not no one, but people everywhere, they'll wear a cross, or, they'll wear a crucifix, same thing, or they'll wear a rosary, and they don't go to church. They don't study it. They don't read the Bible. That's not what makes you a Christian. Just wearing a hammer isn't what makes you an Odinist. But you got how Christianity is getting smaller and it's fading away, and Odinism, or asatru, whatever you want to call it, it's picking back up. People are starting to believe in the old ways, especially when you got TV shows out that are all about Vikings. The show Vikings, Outlander, it's not about Vikings, but it's Celtic, and they believe in similar gods and goddesses. It's picking up, and so it's getting those people interested and really thinking about it. And that's kind of where I'm going to tie into DNA. And DNA is very important to us. It's a really big deal, and it's a very touchy subject. So people might get mad about how I'm going to talk about this, and that's fine. I've been labeled all sorts of things. Hell the Celts. I've been labeled things my whole life. I've been labeled white supremacist, nationalist, whatever. And if you want to call me that, that's fine. That doesn't bug me, because I know what I am. But with DNA, why DNA is important to us is it's because it's how we connect with our ancestors. It's how we connect with our gods. Our ancestors' memories are running through us, through our DNA. That's how we can remember things that we've never read before or never seen before, but we have that memory. Like, we'll hear something for the first time, but it was like it wasn't the first time, and no one's ever told us it before. And that's because our ancestors' DNA runs through us. It's genetic, and DNA is very much alive. Everyone knows that. It's a living organism, and so these memories were passed down through it. And kind of why people would get mad is because at me or whatever is that's why Odinism is primarily an all-white religion. And now you got folkish and you got universalist Odinists, and there's two totally different sides to it. And how I look at it, is you don't see white people going to sweat lodges or practicing Native American religions. You didn't see black people practicing Odinism, or whatever the religion would have been. And that's because their ancestors didn't come from there. They don't have that in their DNA. That doesn't mean that I'm better than them. That I'm not saying that I'm better than them in any way. What I'm saying is that they're not from there. They're not going to have that ancestral call. They're not going to have those ancestors feeding their DNA. They're not going to have the gods sitting there feeding their DNA and showing themselves to them, because they don't have that. And it's not about hate. It's not about being better than someone at all. It's about what's calling to me. It's about where I come from. And, I'm Scottish and I'm German. And I mean, probably a plethora of other things. But each race has their own god. Exactly, Margaret. Each race has their own gods and goddesses. And that's where, since we're talking about DNA and each race having their own gods, that's why you see a lot of people who are falling off. They have left. They have their own ancestral gods. Exactly, Tammy. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah. With having their own gods and goddesses. I can't believe I just lost where I was going. That's all right though. Oh yeah, each race has their own. So you wouldn't see when you look at Christianity, this is where I was going with it. When you look at Christianity, it's a completely alien and foreign religion. It has zero roots. If you look into Christianity, it is literally, I mean, I guess technically it has roots because it formed into something, but it's a multitude of other religions brought together, and primarily used as a weapon to control people. It is a pagan form of Judaism. If you look at it, Judaism was around way before Christianity was, and they took aspects of asatru, or what would back then be Norse paganism, such as Jesus hanging on the tree, him sacrificing himself, which was, God. Well, Odin did the same thing, which, the myth of Odin hanging himself on Yggdrasil and stabbing himself with a spear, the same thing that killed Jesus, predates that exponentially. And, it's all of these things, Easter, Christmas, all these things that Christianity took. So that's why you see all these people that are kind of shying away from Christianity now. It's nowhere near as big as it used to be because people are realizing how foreign it is. It's not their people. It was used as an idea, an ideal to control people. I kind of talked about that, the gods and goddesses. So a little bit earlier, the gods and goddesses being dormant back when, it was really different when people, or when Christians would come along, when the Christians and the Vikings were feuding, everything, the Vikings, of course, ended up losing. Same with the Germanic barbarians, or the Teutonic barbarians. But the Christians came and burned everything. And that was how the Vikings did everything off wood and rock and stone, whatever. And so during those times, the gods ended up becoming dormant. They, no longer, they didn't die. That of course was not Ragnarok. They became dormant and kind of slept, through, hundreds of years. And it's up to all of us now. I mean, clearly you can see the gods are awakening, especially the last, 50 or so years, and are coming out. And we really need to get this going and this ball rolling, and everyone kind of doing their own part to get it going, because times are only going to get worse from here. And everyone's like, oh, stuff's going to turn around. It's going to turn around. It's not. It's not going to turn around. And it's going to be up to us to lead everyone into what's coming. And from there, rebuilding. Let's see. Okay, so where we need to be heading, and what we need to be doing. A really big thing me and Ron talked about, the few days that I spent up there, which was really nice, was sharing all of our experiences. And of course you can't share them all. It's never going to happen. But your major bloats, your study groups, especially for people that are interested. That's why I created this YouTube page, and that's why I also just created the Facebook page a few minutes ago before I started this, because I could reach people easier on Facebook as well. But being able to share that for people who don't know what it's about but are interested, and even if they're not in the same state, even if they're not in the same country, because we have to unite. We have to build up our numbers. We have to start teaching people about this, not force feeding it down their throat, because then that's the same thing the Christians did. You got to ease people into it. You got to help people find their own way. There's no, like I said before, this is all my interpretation of asatru and odinism. There's no right or wrong way to study or to even practice odinism. There's not one set way. It's, you're gonna do this or you're gonna burn in hell. We don't have that. We don't have sin. We have crimes that you that will make it sure you don't go to Valhalla. But we don't have the sin or the oh, I did this, so I need to go confess, or I need to repent for my sins. We don't have that. I just totally got off topic on that. But we really need to start sharing that. We have things that our ancestors never had. We have technology. We have the whole internet, and we need to be using it. We have, Margaret and Tammy are in here that are in the Wyoming Heathen page. And I mean, you guys, I remember when that page had like 4 people, and it's almost, 155, 160 people in it now. And that's mainly Wyoming people. That's huge. That's big. That's a really big deal. I don't know of any other page that has that many people. And that's what we need to be doing. That's why me and Dale and Brian wanted to start this here in Montana, and really get the ball rolling and starting a kindred up here and bringing not just the Berserkers of Midgard and not just the Gimli Soul Kindred together, but other kindreds from all over the United States, all over Europe, and sharing our ideals and readying ourselves. Another thing that we need to start doing is holding ourselves and our folk to a higher standard. That's a really big deal. And sometimes everyone thinks, holding yourself to a higher standard or being strong or, having courage, that's just, getting in fights or, never backing down. And that can play a part in it, but it's not. Holding yourself to that higher standard is walking away from a situation or backing down from an argument that isn't going to lead anywhere, because it's, dying in a pointless battle isn't going to get you in Valhalla. There's no glory in that. There's no glory in dying for something that meant nothing. So we got to hold each other up, keep each other accountable, keep yourself accountable, keep your family accountable, and bring each other up, bring, our kinsmen up, our kinswomen up. Oh, and the last thing I want to talk about, we're going on like 25 or 23 minutes, is and I did skip a whole page, so I will backtrack after this, is physically and mentally preparing ourselves for the Fimbul winter and Ragnarok. And I touched on this just a little bit earlier, and that was with times aren't getting any better. I mean, clearly you can see in everything, you got mass shootings once a month where, dozens of people are getting killed. You have school shootings. You have all of these ideals that are being implanted in our children's minds and our, even our young adult minds, that certain things are okay and it's not, and it's completely brainwashing everyone. And we really got to step aside from that, and we got to be teaching our children and our folk and our family and everyone, how we should be living. And not condemning them, even if they don't believe in what we believe in, but still kind of getting that mentality and that physicality of being ready for when it comes. Because when that Fimbul winter comes, I mean, it's going to kill a lot of people. When Ragnarok comes, a lot of people are going to die. The whole world's going to change, and we have to be ready for that completely. Because if we're not, we're going to go exactly back to how we were when Christianity was taking over, and we're going to be nothing. We're not going to be talked about. We're probably not even going to be allowed to be practiced. I personally believe that when the Fimbul winter comes and when Ragnarok, it's gonna set us back hundreds, if not thousands of years. Now I don't know exactly what's going to happen, whether it's a nuclear winter or massive EMPs that wipe everything out, but we need to be prepared for that completely. Because if not, we will die out again. And I don't know if odinism or asatru will be able to recover from that again. We barely made it through the first time. And the last thing I wanted to touch on that I skipped, it was supposed to be right after DNA, was the runes. Since this is kind of an introduction, beginners to asatru and odinism, and our kind of a little bit about our beliefs until I elaborate on more videos. Um, the runes, I want to go over the creation of the runes, and I talked about it a little bit when Odin hung himself on Yggdrasil for 9 days and then speared himself. No food, no water. Um, Odin hung himself on Yggdrasil and sacrificed himself to himself and found in Gununga Gap the runes. Well, he didn't find the runes. He found this vast amount of knowledge and energy and power, and he fashioned them into the runes. And he shared that with all of us. And to most people, I mean, they'll see runes or they will hear about runes like, oh, that's magic, or oh, that's not real. Anyone, especially who's in here right now, watching or watch this video later, who has a knowledge of the runes, who's casted the runes, knows how powerful they are, knows what they can do. Whether it's telling your future, or asking, trying to connect with the gods and talk with the gods, you can talk to the gods through the runes. There's power in them. I feel them every time we roll. I've been rolling dice because Margaret, like you, Ron gave me some rune dice, and I really like those. When it gets into the runes, it's a very trying to think how I would like to describe that. Because of how powerful they are, you shouldn't just go to casting runes. And I learned this the hard way while I was in prison. Before I knew how to, knew a lot about the runes, I started to cast them. That's good, Tammy, that you experienced it powerfully today. I messed with the runes. I did a rune casting while I was in prison, and I got a lot of bad. I don't know if I'd call it orlog, but I got a lot of bad. I'll just say juju, and did quite a bit of whole time. And it literally it showed me that these things, you have to understand these runes. You have to learn about them. You have to study them. You have to practice them. You got your stadas you do with them. I mean, whether it be Algies, or Sowillo or Berkano, whatever, they all have their own stada, and their chants, and you chant them and you study them and you read. I mean, there's countless books on runes, and my favorite author is hands down Edward Thorson. And I have every one of his rune books now. And, you should have a complete and full understanding of these runes before, even drawing them on anything. And I have runes everywhere on my body, and and I know them. I know the runes, and I practice the runes, and I cast the runes. I casted the runes. Well, I think last week, Dale, at our, we all did. We casted one rune dice each, and it was amazing. And that's because we have this understanding of these runes, and we practice them and we respect them. That's another thing, is respecting these runes, because they are energy. They are knowledge and energy. It doesn't matter what form you have them in, rock, wood, on a piece of paper. It's energy that you should not be messing with unless you fully understand them and what they can and cannot do. That's about all I got today. Next week I'm gonna try to do Then You Rolled for All of Us. No. Did I roll for all of us? No, we all rolled one. Next week, we're running about 30 minutes right now. Next week, I really wanted to start going over some of the myths. I was thinking about starting with one god, and of course, I'm going to start with Odin, because Odin is the All-Father, the King of Gods. I guess I can talk about this for a minute. Odin is essentially all the gods. And if you read about it, all the gods lived through Odin lives through all the gods. If it wasn't for Odin, we wouldn't have all these other gods. We wouldn't have Balder, who in the end, when Odin dies, Balder comes back, and it's Odin through Balder. And I mean, the things he's done for us. And Odin, a lot of people, especially new beginners, because Odin already has this. I hate to say it, but a lot of people watch Marvel and I hate them. But they have this outlook on Odin where he's this all wise and knowing and, kind of badass god, and he is. I mean, he's amazing, but he's not. He's not completely. I'm trying to think. Innocent. Odin has done many tricks and played many tricks on, let's just say, heroes, especially, because he'd tell them they'd win and they'd go into a battle and he would essentially have them die because he wanted them in Valhalla as one of the Einherjar, so he's not this. I'm trying to think without degrading him because I don't want to do that. He's not what a lot of people think he is. You really have to. There's a lot of different books on Odin, and I've wrote a lot of stuff on all the gods, and that's kind of where I'm doing my research for all of these, is going over all my old stuff. And Odin's not my patron god, but I do owe a lot to Odin. Odin has helped me through my path of knowledge extensionally. I used to meditate heavily, especially while I was in prison, and astral project a lot. And I've had the really great pleasure of speaking with Odin in Valhalla when I astral projected. And a lot of people think, oh, that's crazy, whatever. Well, people say they died and see God, or got their hand held by Jesus or whatever. So why is astral projecting any different? And it's not, because that's one of the ways you communicate with the gods. But I mean, the vast amount of knowledge that I've learned, when he spoke with me, and it really opened my eyes and made me study more. But yeah, I'm starting to ramble and I'm a little tipsy. But next week, so I will be doing a live stream on Odin and talking about him and maybe some of his myths and some of the heroes that are associated with him, or say they are children of him, and runes that are associated with Odin, his halls, his magical items, Draupnir, Gungnir the spear, his horse Sleipnir. Who is Loki? Stacia wants to know. Okay, so Loki, a lot of people. So Marvel really messed this up. Loki was not an ice giant. Loki is a fire giant, who made him and Odin. And I don't even know why. I don't know if personally. I don't know if it ever talked about it, but Odin and Loki took a blood pact. They became blood brothers. That is why Odin could never raise a hand, a sword, anything to Loki, because of that pact they made. And that's also one of the reasons why Loki got away with doing a lot of shit. He hurt a lot of people, and he's always scheming. Everyone knows this who's read into this. Loki was always scheming on the other gods. He cut Sif's hair. He's the reason why Thor's hammer was short, and because, he became a fly and was messing with the dwarf. Loki was always scheming, and but he was a fire giant. And thanks, Brian Hilsa. And but yeah, Loki was a fire giant. He was not the brother of Thor. If anything, because him and Odin were blood brothers, he'd be like an uncle to Thor. But yeah, does that answer that, Stacia? And does anyone else have any questions before I sign off? I don't know how live this is, being as it's my first one. I don't know. Yeah, somewhat. That somewhat helps. Well, I could elaborate to the best of my knowledge, but if anyone else has any questions or anything, that they wanted to talk about, trying to think. This is kind of what I was. Thanks, Dale. This is what I was going off today, just kind of bullet points that I came up with a few days ago. Yep, no problem, Margaret. I'm glad you could join. I'm really thankful for everyone that joined today. It's not a lot of people. But it's more people than I've ever went live for before. So I'm very grateful for that. I was very hospitable of all you guys that joined. I know probably all of you that joined, and it really means a lot. So share this. Margaret, you're on MeWe, and I'm on MeWe. We could share it on there. And I'm gonna call Ron after this and talk to him. We really need to share stuff like this to get people to understand what it really is. And it's not what, people have this preconceived notion of it, that everyone that's an Odinist is a skinhead, or they're a bigot or whatever. If we're not, there are those Odinists that are that. Tell him a hearty Hilsa from the lanes. I will, Margaret. I'm not going to be able to go up in October for his roof, but I am going in November to see him. And I owe a lot of this, Ron will probably watch this video too, and Ron, all of us owe a lot to you. The things you've done for our community, I don't think I'll ever be able to touch in my lifetime. I'm only 26, almost 27, but the countless books you've wrote, the knowledge that just the couple times that I've met you and went to your house, the knowledge that I've learned from you has been existential. He's a very smart man. Hail Ron McVan. Man, the things that he does for us, and he doesn't even realize it. I can't wait to raise a horn with you too, Tammy. The things Ron does, and he doesn't realize that he's done it for us. He doesn't realize what he's done for the asatru community, and I was really glad, that all of us could donate some money for his roof. And I believe, Margaret, we reached that goal. I'm not quite sure. But that's a big deal, and I was talking to Dale, I think I talked to you, Dale, about this, but starting saving money for Ron, a month, $25 a person a month, he doesn't have a job, and helping him out with groceries, going up and visiting him. That's a big thing because Ron loves to talk and I love to listen, man. The way he talks, you guys have heard it in the video that I shared him of me drumming and him doing poetry for Jubal Dean, the 21st century Viking, man. The energy that comes from him when he speaks, it's, man, he could really talk, his voice, everything, and I wish I talked like that. But I'm going to sign off, you guys, if you guys have no more questions, and again, I'm grateful, and hopefully I will see you guys on here next week. And okay, Dale, I'll talk to you guys later. You guys have a good night. Helsa, brothers and sisters.